Hello, dear listener. I have something truly special to share. It's an exclusive invitation to join me in Mexico for an intimate and luxurious 3-day retreat along the beautiful Pacific coast of Zihuatanejo, taking place the weekend of the spring equinox, March 18th through the 20th. There's also an optional day to stay through the 21st for some special ceremonies that are happening in the area for the equinox. But the retreat itself is the 18th through the 20th, really an opportunity not to be missed. And I'm offering one lucky listener a discounted ticket on this weekend that I've just been loving into being actually for several years now as COVID and, everything. But when we conceived of building this place, our home down here, it's really what we envisioned, bringing people down here for retreats, for trainings, because we felt and we knew that this space was special. And as people keep coming down and we keep getting the feedback, how magical it is, we want to share it in a really intentional way. Be working with the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, the metaphors of the season. We'll set sight on a new vision for our mothering journey and creating a deeper connection to self and Mother Nature. So to win a discounted ticket, rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts. Screenshot it and DM it to me on Instagram at Dr. Gertrude Lyons. And remember, the most important thing to mother is yourself. Give yourself permission to take a retreat this year. And besides, who said mothers can't go on a spring break? I'll see you there.
This is a Soulfire production. Welcome to Mother. No, it's Mother. Welcome to Mother, the show where we can explore our inner mothers to actualize our greatest selves. Through interviews with incredible guests, live coaching sessions, and my own experiences, we're going to dive deep into embracing feminine values and reparenting ourselves. So be prepared to show up, hold space, and be mothered in a way you never have before, but have always needed. It's time we rewrite the Mother Code. Welcome to Mother, Season 2 of Rewriting the Mother Code podcast. This episode, I knew it would be good. I knew interviewing Carla Hammond from BEtime and BEtime Practice was going to be inspiring because even though I have only newly been getting to know Carla, she's been an inspiration to me as a woman and as a business owner, founder of BEtime and BEtime Practice. And I left it kind of open about where we would explore just hearing her story. So she shares her story about how BEtime and BEtime Practice came about. It's a meditation and mindfulness business, but it's a mobile business in New York City that was really taking off before COVID hit and how she had to pivot. But then we really get into the vulnerable territory of how COVID really brought to light for her how she had been losing herself in her business, in her children, in her relationship with her husband, and what a gift COVID was to step back and recognize that and how she's been shifting the paradigm for herself. And I think offers tons of inspiration and practical tips from what she's been doing. I'm super excited. I know that many of you will relate, no matter where you are on the mothering continuum, just what it means for us to care so much about everything in our lives, but then what it then means to put ourselves first and the power of that. So enjoy. I am so excited to have Carla Hammond with me as my guest today. So you're going to hear a lot more about her, but just to give you a sneak preview, Carla has an amazing offering mindfulness practice in New York City called BEtime. And it's a mobile meditation bus, and it's phenomenal and such a beautiful offering. And then in COVID, she developed BEtime Practice, an online app that, isn't quite the same because you don't have the in-person, but it still is. I've been using it, and it's just a beautiful way to bring yourself to mindfulness and have something in your toolkit to use for your meditation and for your practice. So she's a longtime advocate of this kind of work, and we're going to hear more about it, but welcome.
Thank you, Gertrude. So happy to be here.
Yeah. So just a little background, because I think it's fun, because I don't think there's accidents. And I know many of my listeners know we have a home in Mexico, and the developer here, Jason Miller at Marea Beachfront Villas in Zihuatanejo, Mexico, said, hey, there's a woman here that, do you want to just get together and do a meditation? And I'm never one to pass up a meditation opportunity when it's given to me. So she came over, and a few more, from our area here came, and we just had the most beautiful meditation practice just that morning. And then we stayed in contact. And now we're down here for a week, and lo and behold, she's here too. So I'm like, please come over. Let's do a podcast together. So I'm super excited, and I don't think it's an accident. And we're going to do some meditating while she's here. So first thing, Carla, if you could let everyone know what BEtime is, and we'll start there. And then we're going to probably go backwards in how you came to do that. But say more about BEtime and you.
Sure, of course. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I love how the universe conspires to make things happen and great things happen. So grateful for that. Yeah, sure. So I'll share a little bit about BEtime. We launched in 2018. I can tell you more of the background story, but the idea and the intention behind it is to just create a space in what can be a very crazy city, which is New York City, for people to experience themselves in meditation. And kind of like serve as an invitation for that. Hopefully, they enjoy it and they really want to look into it, and they can bring it into their everyday lives in some way or another. And the idea is that we can help them through that process and that journey. And we really believe in the power of human connection and in just the power of meditation and intention and all of the amazing benefits which we all mostly know of right now, right?
Yeah, so we at least know about them, whether we practice them or not. But I think many people know that, that's something that's good for you.
Exactly. I know, and that was the other thing. I also wanted to create a space where we could really demystify meditation, and because there's so many misconceptions and so many people, think that just because they can't stop thinking, then they're not meditating, and all of those things which are not true. Mm-hmm. So that we could kind of create a very safe and modern approach to meditation that really inspires people to come back to it and to practice it.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So beautiful. So now could you describe, we'll also talk about how you were really expanding, you were really moving, and then COVID hit, and something that was in person. But first of all, before we go there, describe this bus, and what you conceived of and brought, because in mothering, you birthed a bus.
Yes. It's my third baby.
Yes, exactly.
For sure.
Okay.
So I've been practicing meditation for a long time, on and off. My first experience was when I was 17 years old. Yeah, it was an experience for sure. My mom kind of forced me into joining her for a retreat, and then I had an amazing experience, and I kind of got hooked from then. And it's just been a constant companion throughout my life, on and off. And I really noticed the benefits of it. And I noticed the changes in my life and the way I experience life when I'm practicing. So it's been a really kind of important part of my journey. And so my background is in the nonprofit sector. And I've done, I've worked with organizations that focus on very different causes. And one of the last ones that I worked with is focused on sharing mindfulness and meditation practices with underserved schools in Brooklyn. And so it was such a beautiful experience. We went into these really rough schools where these young adults had so much going on that it was just even too much for them to close their eyes. And during a few sessions, we started seeing this amazing transformation in them. And it was just an after school twice a week. But these spillover effects that it had on their lives were just amazing. And so they were bringing friends and talking about how their relationships changed with their caregivers, and their schoolwork was being affected positively, all of these amazing things. And so it just kind of really tickled me, and thinking, okay, I know what meditation has done for me in my life, and now seeing it firsthand in these people, how can I very humbly expand this invitation for more people to experience themselves in meditation and have a try and then taste of what it can do for their lives. And so I was very pregnant with twins, who are now 7-year-old twins.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, and I kind of like had to put a pause on that, and it stayed in the files. And once the twins were born, I practiced at home. So I realized it got a little hectic because it was hard, to have
a little,
exactly, 7-year-old twins, first time mom at home. And so I found myself really wishing for a space where I could go to at least once a week and just practice and do my thing. And so I was like, I live in New York City. I'm sure there has to be like tons of these places. And I started looking, and there weren't really that many offerings. So there was like the afterthought of yoga, meditation kind of thing. And there were a couple of spaces which were more like spiritual communities, which I wasn't, looking for at that moment.
You have to join or like kind of really be part of that to take advantage. Sure.
Exactly. And then there was like a couple of offerings, but all the way downtown, it was a 40-minute commute for a half an hour class and then come back. And Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., I'm like, no, I'm done. At that time, I'm like, I want to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that there was a space for something like this. It was definitely not something that existed. So I just wasn't sure if people were ready for a brick and mortar experience, right? Because yes, meditation was going mainstream back then, but it wasn't, fully there. So then I started seeing the food truck movement. And I remember coming home one day and just telling my husband, what if we had like a meditation bus, like a fully soundproof, amazing space where we can just like go and visit anywhere, schools and hospitals or communities or whatever it may be, and just pop up anywhere in the city and invite people to come on in and take a breather, like a literal breather.
Yeah.
And so he was like, okay, sure, a bus, fine. And then I went into
hoping it was maybe a passing fancy a little bit.
Like, hey, let's give it that sounds fun. That's sweet.
Let's talk about
very
that.
sweet. Yeah. And so it kind of just like wouldn't let go. This idea, I wouldn't let go. And so I just sat down and actually wrote like a business plan, and then it just tumbled on from there. And I was kind of waiting for the stop, like, oh, I guess that was it. Like, we can't do it. Or because of blah, or because of X, Y, Z. And it didn't happen. And then all of a sudden, there was this beautiful mobile meditation studio. It's like a 35-foot bus, like a tour bus. Yeah, it's a fun space. So we made it soundproof. And then we have over 15,000 LED lights to provide chromotherapy and aromatherapy. And obviously, the colors change. You walk in and there's, aromatherapy hits you right away. That's the first thing that people say, like, oh my gosh, it smells so good in here. Mm-hmm. We have the weighted blankets and then an amazing team of meditation teachers. And so the idea is that you walk in off the busy pavement and the noise of the city and into this beautiful space that really serves as a cocoon to hold you during your meditation practice and hopefully have like a really immersive and multi-sensory experience that gets you going, right?
Yes.
That tickles that feel like, oh, this the meditation thing was actually cool. So we launched in 2018 and we were, scaling up. We did B2C, then shifted more to B2B, and that was awesome. And we were really going all the way up traction wise. And then of course 2000
that which will not be named. Yes, exactly.
And it put everything on pause, of course, right? And so it was,
well, just as you're saying that, because we've talked about this a bit, but now it's really striking me like something we've so needed, and I know we couldn't be in person or whatnot, but that space that you described and that was really kicking off to have something like that taken away. Wow, what a missing. But
thank you. Yes.
We were not going to rest there.
No, we were not going to rest there. And I guess the other little piece I would like to add to it is that a lot of our larger corporate clients were asking us like, okay, how can we have this experience right in our offices permanently so that we can offer it to our employees and have a space where they can enjoy it. So those were
you were moving in that direction
exactly.
too.
So we were
that was
having
starting to happen.
That as another, like scalable aspect of the business. And of course, that was also put on hold. I mean, very transparently, it was a really tough time to think of where and what BEtime would be without the mobile studio. There are so many meditation apps out there right now, which is obviously amazing because there's a demand for it. But I didn't just want to be one more meditation app. And so what I started noticing, obviously we pivoted to virtual everything, right?
Yes.
So virtual classes with our clients and virtual, meditation events and for conferences online and stuff, which was great.
Very needed.
Still very needed. Yeah. And actually really powerful.
Yeah.
Much more than what I thought they could translate into.
100%, because, our work and my work, as a coach and then facilitating group experiences. And at the Right Foundation, we do very experiential trainings. And I never would have thought they could be as impactful in person as they have been.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should stay that way completely. But now knowing that we can do both, and it just expands and broadens.
1,000%.
So, and I don't think we would have moved into that space. We weren't even planning on it for a few more years, So it was one of the gifts, of COVID to just catapult us into that. And I think that's what you're speaking to, is the power of it does transcend the medium in lots of ways. But also what you're saying, the sensory, addition, the smells and I was thinking about that recently. So this is a total aside, but posting pictures on like Instagram or something like that. Or I take a lot of pictures of like flowers in nature, and recently I've been like, I wish I could add smell to this. It's beautiful to look at, and that has certainly its impact. But if you could smell this flower,
I know,
funny.
I know it is. It does add like an extra element, but I think that the essence and the core of the teachings, of the learnings, of whatever it is that the offering is really translates really well.
Yeah.
It can be equally powerful. For us, we are the immersiveness or the multisensory experience has always been kind of like something that beyond having a mobile studio that kind of like sets us apart from other meditation companies. Yeah. Which is why we thought of like the merch. So like the aromatherapy candle, and you can buy your weighted blanket, and just like little additions, which, we can all do to just kind of like enhance our experience a little.
Sure.
But that said, going back to online and
it was still really
COVID
difficult.
offerings.
Yeah.
Yes,
and,
it was still really difficult. And something towards what you were saying did happen, which suddenly we had clients in London and Brazil, and which I would never had, imagined having at this point.
Exactly.
And so there was definitely that beautiful opening of new opportunities and new reach, which has been great. And then in terms of our app, which we're going to be like relaunching very soon, we just wanted to create a more of a community experience, because what we started realizing with our classes online were that people were just very lonely, right? And there was obviously, and there still is, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, added bonus with everything else that was going on with the pandemic, of course. But like the loneliness factor, I think, really spoke to me, and I felt it was really important to be able to kind of like have that human connection in some way or form.
Yeah.
So instead of just having a static space or a static app where you just listen to really useful and amazing courses or content or meditations, etc., you can have that, but also live classes with actual instructors that you can engage with and ask questions. And because I think that's a lot of what's important with meditation practice, especially when you're first starting out, is things that happen and that come up, and you don't know if you're doing things right.
Yeah, exactly.
Quote unquote. Or there's no any right or wrong way of meditating, but there's all these, again, misconceptions or just like new experiences. And so it's really important for me and for BEtime to kind of know that we can incorporate that support with somebody that's experienced and that is knowledgeable and has an amazing practice of their own to kind of like help guide and support people who are interested in their own journey. So that was the main idea. And then just kind of like making it fun, right? And creating a community and a space where we can have like book clubs for whoever wants to delve into that. And we help, create those groups, and mandala drawings are just like different kind of offerings and ways in which people could engage with each other in a mindful way, or not, right? If you just want to go in
Exactly,
and listen to
the
your
options
class,
are there,
and
right,
exactly.
exactly.
Then that's your choice too, and that's
But
great.
having different levels of engagement is, and I'm just, hearing you and want to underline how I'm going to call them, kind of more feminine right brain aspects of this. Like, yes, I want to keep my business going, and, I have financial goals and to be sustainable. And I think that's, has its value and we need that. But I'm also hearing these very feminine qualities of like listening to what people need, providing, caring about them, not just what's going to get the most people, and what do people need, and I'm hearing you really be open to that and then providing it, finding ways and being innovative and making that. So I want to underline that. I like to use the term, masculine in service of the feminine, but it's not the predominant factor here, and how that's working, and it was working before COVID in its own way. And now it's, having a new life. And,
thank you.
Yeah.
That's beautifully said.
Hi, I'm so excited to share with you my 2024 Spring Equinox Self-Mothering Retreat that's happening this March 2024. And I would love for you not only to consider it, but to attend. But in considering it, hey, just knowing that you would be leaving cold weather, if that's the space that you're in, and coming down to just magnificently beautiful, warm, nourishing place of Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Zihuatanejo meaning land of the goddess women, and coming to really take time for yourself. Okay. And that I am learning more and more isn't just a nice thing to do or something extravagant or something selfish. It's essential. And I really want you to take it seriously, to consider, just think about what would it take for me to go. It's a 5.5-day retreat. Getting from where you are, getting there, landing there, and then being in a space that is all about you. It's all about nourishing you. It's all about tuning into you, using everything around us, the nature, the food, the beautiful people, the rituals, ceremonies. I bring it, we really bring it. And we go deeper and deeper as the days go on, and we release, we let go, we bring in what is nourishing, what is empowering, what is that space of just really divine feminine energy. And we do it in the community of women. It's not for everyone. I will be honest, if that idea of leaving and not making it work, or it's just too hard, not for you. If the idea of, spending that amount of time inwardly focused and going to that level of self-awareness doesn't sound like something you're willing to do or put the time and energy into, then it's not for you. And it's good to know that, right? So this is for people who are serious about what it means to mother themselves, what it means to take time for ourselves, and that gift and what that gift can bring to us. It was originally right after my fall retreat. It filled right up. But now some people, it turns out, are not able to come. So I do have a handful of openings. And if you're listening to this and you're willing to take that step, please reach out to me. We can do a discovery call, or you can put a deposit down. I would love that. And you can do that by going to my website, www.drgertrudelyons, DrGertrudelyons.com. Go to events, and there you go. It'll all be there. There's a beautiful page there for you to explore. I look forward to hearing from you and then seeing you on my spring retreat.
And I hadn't thought about it that way. So thank you for pointing that out.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's so cool. So that's kind of like where we're at right now. And we actually relaunched with the mobile studio again, which is amazing.
Yes.
And
it makes me want to come to New York, like just to
my goodness.
do it and see
You would be like guest of honor.
No, I'm totally going to do it. There's maybe a couple other reasons, but that's high up on the list for me to get there. That will happen. So now let's shift a little bit, because even though you've been talking about you and this as your business, and I still like to use the terminology that's one of your children that you're raising, but you are also a mother of twins.
Mhm.
And was there a third or no, the twins?
The third is the mobile studio.
The third is the mobile studio. Yes, exactly. And a husband and
And a
a
husband.
relationship.
Correct.
And sometimes I know, and even this is true for myself, when we have our business is about caring, and is about providing, we're not always still doing the best for ourselves.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing, like, what's worked for you to help you mother yourself?
Mhm,
Where have the challenges been? And if you could speak a little bit about that, that would be great.
So I think like the idea of actually launching this business, I think really came from all the other instances that I mentioned previously, but also from just a need of knowing that I'm present with my family, right? That I'm present with myself, that I'm present with my family, that I have that ability of nurturing fully by being there, in the present moment with them. And I just noticed how much things shifted for myself, for them, for my husband, obviously, when I was able to do that. So it kind of underlined the importance of what I was trying to transmit and share and get out there. So I really feel like they were my inspiration in many ways, and a means of why this came about. And beyond that, the ironic piece of it, I guess, is, I'd been in many startup NGOs, and that had always been, my background. And so I was used to it. And I think it obviously did give me a lot of skill sets and experience and, knowledge. But at the same time, when you're launching your own business, it's a totally different, a totally different experience. It's just a lot. It's a lot. It's overwhelming. It's exciting. It's stressful. It's inspiring. It's hopeful. It's so many things bundled into one. And what I noticed was that during the first year and a half or two, I was actually losing myself. I was losing myself throughout it all. I was just like torn into so many pieces of giving and of trying to be there. So I would just put the extra effort into, being there for my kids and for my husband and for my family and for my friends. And it got to a point that I was all the way at the back of the row, right? Which is something that I think, unfortunately, as women and as mothers, we kind of think is the way things should be, right? Because we need to take care of everybody.
100%.
And we need to be there for everybody.
One of my big myths around mothering is that everyone else comes first and you're down the list. So this is beautiful. Keep going.
So it came to a point that, but like, obviously when that happens though, it's really hard to give fully and quality of yourself and time
when your tank
if
is
you
empty.
don't have anything to give, right? Because you don't have yourself. And it was very intense and very interesting because it was kind of like I felt in many ways like such a fraud because I'm teaching, and trying to like share this presence and mindfulness and caring and self-caring. And some ways, even though I was practicing, in my daily life as I do, etc., I wasn't being able to transmit that fully for myself. And so I hadn't fully, I guess, realized that. And I was still very much kind of like in the hustle of it every day. And so I guess it wasn't until COVID hit, interestingly enough, that I had to put a pause and really take a step back and notice, how I was living my life and how I was showing up for myself and how I was showing up for others that I care for and that I love. And I think that was another, silver lining, humongous gift that I got from this pause, which is, to really rethink how I want to envision moving forward with my company and the priorities and how I can have a balance of everything where I also put myself first, and how important that is. And that it doesn't have to be like all business because you're an entrepreneur. And so, you just have to go and kind of like try to give extra little bits of yourself everywhere else. And
not even having crumbs left for yourself.
Exactly. And it's simply not necessary. It's not sustainable. But also, it does not have to be that way. And I feel like, unfortunately, society and life kind of showcases in so many ways and forms, indirectly and subconsciously, and also very directly, that if you want to, get great things, you got to achieve and do it, and hard things, but you can also take a nap.
Yes.
Like you really need to find a balance. So that's been really comforting and refreshing for myself to kind of like regroup and put myself out there and put my intention out there in a very different way, where I'm actually kind of able to experience that nurturing for myself too, while I try to and aim to help and nurture others.
This is so great, Carla. I didn't even know we would go like this directly into this with you, because we haven't had this conversation before, and it's so perfect and so relevant. And I know, so many women and people, listening are going to relate. And so thank you. Thank you for bringing it forth. And it's vulnerable, and it's vulnerable to start putting it out directly that old model doesn't work. Things still happen, you'd still have your business, but there might be a breaking point, or it'll be like years down the line and you'll look back kind of regretfully, or, as like a lot of other things like physically can ensue to like send us messages, right? So this was an external one that I think you opened yourself to with COVID, to step back and see, and had the presence to acknowledge, this, and that it wasn't working. And I know it's still probably kind of new stepping into this space of like, oh, well, all right, that's not working. Now I would like to put myself first. I'm going to intend to, and that can look a lot of different ways for us. And I know I speak a lot around mothering yourself, everything from just taking the time to step away from everything and have a meditation practice or a mindful practice, but also, the going inside and having our feelings and looking deeply at ourselves. And that's a form of self-care. That's really important. But what are some of the things, like, what are you noticing now, or what are there specific things you've implemented? Because we can have that thought and that idea, but then what do we do about it, right? Yeah. And it gets kind of practical. I realize, what systems do I need to put in place? What do I need to tell my family, tell who I'm in business with, that the game is changing, right? Yeah. And things are going to be a little bit different. So I don't know what, if any of those you did, or how it's looking for you now as you had this realization and are stepping into living it.
Yeah. That's a great question. So I kind of very organically started doing things that I enjoy, right? And so I started playing around with schedules. My kids just were lucky enough to go to camp, summer camp, day camp, because they're young. But over the summer, it was just such a nice space for me to be able to say, okay, so from X time to X time, I will work. And in between that, like, these will be calls, these will be emails, these will be like time to focus, and trying to structure my day like that has really helped. And then making sure that I really integrate play and moments of time where I'm enjoying myself and doing things that are nurturing to me. So I just got back into tennis. So now I'm playing, it might be just going and playing tennis for an hour, or exercising, or taking a run. So making sure that I give myself space for that every day. Commitments, no excuses.
Yep.
Same as my meditation practice. And again, just like the structuring of my day for when I do have those time slots that I know I can allocate to work. And it doesn't have to be the whole day. It doesn't have to be 10 hours straight. You can actually do so much more if you are able to focus and have a structured time, at least for me, that really works.
Yeah.
And having your prerogatives are, these are the important things, these I can get to later. Just like, I know this is 101 basic organizational skills, but I have ADD,
we don't want to minimize
so it's like
them.
really
I completely agree. Yes, this is not a minor thing.
And that I can structure my days like that, and my mind like that too.
And
right?
knowing that that's self-care, right?
Yes.
Like, we don't always look at it that way. And systems and structures that then give us a container to do our work, to, do all these different things, are, because we're not, to be clear, we're not saying work is something we're just doing. You know, we want that to be nourishing, but we also know we need to put some guidelines and parameters around it.
Correct.
And when we're not used to having that kind of structure, and I'm right with you with the ADD, it's like you're all over the place and you're never feeling done. And this is a kind of structure that's super empowering and supportive. Yeah.
Yes. And then makes it exciting again. And it makes it fun. And I got my passion back, you know, instead of having to feel like it's going to be just a grudge, you know, and it's going to be a tough thing because you're startup and you're bootstrapping and like it's supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really have to be.
Right.
It really does not have to be.
Yeah.
It's up to you. And the other thing that I've been doing that I don't know how it's taken outside of my email, but I don't feel compelled to or pressured into responding right away to emails, to texts, work-related texts. So, I mean, it's okay if I take 24 hours in getting back to you. It's gonna, I mean, of course, if it's not something urgent, etc.
Yes.
Like, I think there's a lot to be said for when you need to take some space and time to think about things or to put your ideas in order. And before I felt like compelled to just like, I have to answer right away to everything. And so it made it that if at 6 p.m. or like I'm having dinner with my family, I see, you know, like a little text thing or email ding or whatever it may be, then I felt like I needed to get back to it right away because it's so important. And no, it's not that important. It can actually wait until most things can wait until tomorrow. And so that really opens up the space for when you're done with that segment of your workday, right? To really spend time with your family or your friends in fuller
Presence.
Capacity and
Right?
present way without having, because yes, exactly. Because I noticed a couple of years ago when this all started that I would be with my kids, but at the back of my mind, I could notice that I was like, oh, and I have to, you know, respond to that, or I have to blah, 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 blah. Whatever it may be, there was this constant chatter that I was noticing, which is like, okay, at least I was noticing, but I wasn't being able to let it go because I didn't have kind of like the structure
security
to it.
Exactly. How that structure gives you security. It's like, oh, I'll do that in that time I have designated to that.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And if I forget, I forget. But my experience of meditation, and we didn't go into that, is it isn't about like a doing it right, right? But the whole thing is about bringing yourself back to presence, noticing when you go off. So noticing that thought, like, oh, I'm thinking in the future, and I don't even have to overanalyze. It's like, nope, just, oh, here I am. I'm back with my husband and catching it and bringing yourself back like you might with breathing and meditation, you know, and stuff. And I don't want to underestimate the power of that. Because if we sit there and think like, oh, when I'm with, I shouldn't think about work, or like, you know, if I set up this time, then it won't, you know, somehow magically happen. It's no, then I have that choice in that moment. What am I going to orient to? And then if I want to, I could explore at some point, like, oh, what was happening right when I started thinking about work? Like what was happening in relationship with who I'm with? If it's my kids or my husband, that like, it's not an accident that at that moment I thought about that email I should write. And it's like, interesting, right? And then we can use it not to beat ourselves up or feel guilty, like, oh, I should be doing that. It's like, oh no, that was just a little reminder, tug signal that something was going on that wanted me to avoid the moment.
Yes.
Right? So it just something that took me out of the moment, and I went there. So I think you're underlining that so beautifully. And I also want to name, and we're not going to go into this, but I want to underline how important everything you're sharing about how you're implementing, but you also in this time decided to go on a deeper inner journey. And I think, you know, that's huge and beautiful. You know, you took time away from your family and business, you know, for a week-long training. You're here this weekend, I think, without your children.
Yes.
But even if they can,
a girly trip.
Yeah, you're here, you know, on a trip away. And I think these are new things for you, and that
1,000%.
you're, you know, but just then how more of you there is in doing these things and availability to bring back to your business and family. So I wanted to name that one and underline, because I think it's also something, particularly women, we think, oh, you know, sure, we'd give our kids if we knew that something camp, you know, a week for them to go like immerse themselves in something that's going to be so good for them. Of course, I'm going to give it to them, but to give it to ourselves whole nother story.
Whole nother
Yes.
story.
So I want to hold that up as an inspiration and that it's working, right? It's
Yes.
and all the beliefs you had about what might happen when you did that.
Exactly. And it's actually so interesting because I noticed that in doing so, I then actually come up with even more inspiration and I feel even more creative and I feel even more passionate, and it just allows me to bring more of myself to the table in all these different, realms and aspects, but actually really just inspires me to feel even more fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's a really beautiful thing. And it's kind of like a 360 that you are kind of the beginning. I felt like you're not supposed to do that, or you're not, you can't do that right now. You're not deserving, or, or you're not in all of these.
You're not enough.
Exactly. Like all of those qualitative thoughts that I think most of us, have.
Well, they've been ingrained
right?
culturally from our families in some way or another. When I speak of rewriting the mother code, like that's the crux of it, right? What got wired in that we've chosen to believe because it seems like what we're supposed to do based on that wiring. And then it's up to us to explore that, lay new wiring around it. And all the beliefs or fears that we had of what would happen aren't true.
No.
Right. And it still doesn't mean that next time something's proposed to you to do just for you, that you won't have to do that sort.
Yeah.
It becomes a little easier as we go, but they'll always come up. It's just, what are we going to listen to? What voices, where are we going to choose to put our attention and direction? And
exactly.
I think
and how
that's what we're talking about.
All of those things translate into our feelings, right? Into our emotions, and to what it brings up in our bodies, and how all of that propels into our choices, into the way we experience life, into what we choose to offer and to put out there and to be. So, yeah.
So beautiful. Okay. Well, I don't want to, but I think we're going to wrap up. As you can see, and my mind just went to like 3 other topics that I would love to explore. So I'm just going to put that out there as a teaser that, of course, I think you'll agree that we should have Carla back on the show, because I'm thinking about the importance of beauty in space, and it's kind of in another realm, and just that element that we were talking about. I was picturing, even though I haven't seen it, I've only seen pictures of the bus, and just invoking that space and like thinking of it, I feel the power of it. And then I'm so grateful for the space that we had together. And I know you won't see us on the podcast, but it was lovely to be able to be in person and sit right up close together
very
to this
close.
microphone. But how lovely and wonderful.
A gift.
Yeah.
Such a gift.
Such a huge gift. How can people find you? So we'll have it in the show notes, but I like to, make sure we say it out loud here.
Thank you. Yes, of course. So you can find us on social at BEtime Practice, and then our website is betimepractice.com.
Well, beautiful. So absolutely, please visit it, even if it's just to see the photos, but sign up for the BEtime Practice and all that good stuff. In closing, one last question is, what would you say when you hear rewrite the mother code? What comes up for you?
I love it. I think what comes up for me very personally is just knowing that it's okay to relearn coping mechanisms and skills to make myself feel safe, happy, and at ease.
Beautiful. I love that. And yes, it's not a test, but that one that resonates with me as well. So thank you so much, Carla.
Thank you,
and
Gertrude.
Have a beautiful rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Your girls' weekend.
Thank you.
And till next time.
Thank you so much for choosing yourself and taking the time to listen to this podcast. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe to subscribe to Mother. It helps other people who need this message, aka all women. Well, actually, everybody, men included. I'm honored to have you on this journey in mothering yourself. Remember, change is uncomfortable, but it's beautiful, and it starts with us. And if you can't wait until next week's episode, follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Dr. Gertrude Lyons, or at my website, drgertrudelyons.com. I'll see you next time.